Hey, how you doing? It's Stacy at All About Fastpitch, and today I'm going to just talk a little bit about the sidearm throw. And one thing that drives me absolutely crazy as a former infielder and as someone who works with infielders as a coach is seeing an entire infield do a pregame warm-up and every single person is throwing the ball sidearm. I just don't understand why people do that. Yes, there is a time and place to use a sidearm throw, but I don't believe that any player should be using it as their everyday routine throw, something that they use all the time. Now, my biggest reason for this is because as you get older and older and the game gets faster and faster, the ones who can keep up are the ones that are going to make it. Now, as you get older and you get stronger and you get faster, when you use your sidearm throw, it's going to start tailing even more and more. And the more the ball tails, the tougher it is to receive it on the other end. And if you're an infielder, even if you're not an infielder, but if you are trying to get the ball to a base to make an out, even if it's not to get an out, but especially when you're trying to get an out, the easier you can make it for the person receiving the ball, the more consistently you're going to be able to get the out. And that is what we're trying to do on defense. We're trying to get as many outs as we can, as consistently as we possibly can. So it is your job to get the ball to the receiver and make it as easy as possible for her to catch the ball. And a sidearm throw doesn't usually facilitate that. Now, when I was in college, I remember my college coach always telling our third baseman and the shortstop to get over the top as much as possible, because as you know, in college the corners play really tight. So a lot of times our first baseman, she doesn't even have her eyes on the ball on the release. She's still trying to get back to her base, and once she turns around and she's looking for the ball, it's already in flight. So the least it's moving, the easier it is for her to catch the ball, the more chance we're going to get gonna have to get that out. So I just always remember our coach telling us to make it as easy as possible for the person receiving the ball. And even now, most of us aren't playing, coaching, or parenting college players, but even if you are, especially if you are, definitely encourage your players to come over the top. But also, even if you're not, even at the high school level, I try to get the players to make that throw as easy to catch as possible, because like I said, we want to be able to make as many outs as possible as consistently as possible. And I believe in teaching these players what they need to know, not only for right now but for the future. So if they want to continue to play this game at higher levels at a faster pace, I want to give them the tools and the information they need to be able to do that. And I don't believe encouraging them or allowing them to keep making every throw sidearm is going to do that. Now, one of the things that a coach recently asked me was, how do I get my players to stop? Because he's having a hard time getting them to stop that. They do a lot of throws and they do a lot of working on the mechanics, and they can do it when they're doing those progressive drills, but when they go back to full speed regular drills, they kind of revert back to their old habit, which is going to happen. So two things. Number one is to absolutely emphasize proper and good throwing mechanics during warm-up, because warm-up is something you do every single time you go on the field. I mean, any player, before they start throwing the ball around, as even if they're only out there to have fun and play with their friends, they're going to probably do some kind of warm-up. And every day at practice, chances are that you do overhand throwing warm-up. I mean, there's almost no practice when you're not going to do that unless you're only going to hit. So since you're doing that every single day over and over and over and over again, make sure that your players are using good fundamentals and good throwing mechanics during that warm-up, because if they're not, that's what they're practicing every single day over and over and over and over again. That is what they're going to do when they're just reacting and they're not thinking and they're just letting their body do what it's been trained to do. So that's the time to make sure they're also doing and using the proper mechanics. And some coaches will make the mistake of emphasizing it in the beginning or during drills, but then when they're running other situations and whatnot, they don't even say anything about it. They don't mention anything about it. They let their players throw however they want. And I think it needs to be something that you're consistent with. The second thing I suggested to him to do was to do a drill where they're trying to hit a target on a one hop. So make them go in the outfield and do a one hop throw in, or even sometimes when you're just going base to base and you're having them throw one hoppers to each other to practice fielding at the same time. But the sidearm puts, of course, a spin on the ball, and if they're trying to hit a target on a one hop throw, it's going to be a lot more difficult if they're continuing to use their sidearm throw. So that's something that can help them see how much of a spin it really has, and also to encourage them to come a little bit more over the top. So those are some of the reasons why I think it's important to be able to, yes, you can use a sidearm when it's appropriate, but also be able to have a more over the top throw. And it doesn't have to be 100%, because I was never able to really do that, but I played second base, so it didn't really matter too much. But outfielders, especially when you're throwing the ball in and you're doing a one hop to home, the least spin it has and the more straight that you can get it to go, the easier it's going to be to get that super important out at home plate. So definitely work on those throws. Coming over the top is something that I think a lot of coaches tend to not really pay much attention to, and some of them, like this one coach that wrote to me, you know, he's very adamant about getting his players to get away from the sidearm throw all the time. So that was refreshing to see. But it's definitely something to keep in mind. And I think what happens a lot of times, and it happened to me, 12 years old, this guy was coaching 12 and under, and I have to say that was probably about the time when I tried throwing sidearm, because I saw my friends doing it, and I tried it, and it must have drove my dad absolutely nuts, because I started throwing like that for a little while. But it feels like you're throwing harder, and I think the only reason for that is because you have to use more muscle to make that throw. So it makes you feel like you've got all this muscle and all this oomph behind your throw, but in reality all you're doing is having to use more muscle, because the mechanics of the throw aren't giving you the power that you need. So you're probably not throwing harder, but you are using more muscle, which really isn't the best for your arm and the longevity of being able to play this game for a long time. After all, the sidearm throw is wearing on your muscles and wearing on your muscles day in and day out, over and over and over again, because that's all you use. As you get older and you're reaching your highest levels of play, your arm will probably start breaking down, and it's not going to feel the best that it can. And when you get older and you're at those higher levels of play, that's when you want your arm really to feel your best and the strongest. That's not when you want it to start wearing down, because you've been throwing sidearm for years and years and years and years, and it's finally taking a toll on your arm. So just a couple of things to think about, and why I really get just frustrated and just thumped when I see entire infields all throwing sidearm every single throw that they make. So I would definitely like to hear your thoughts though on this subject. So go ahead and leave a comment below and tell me what you think. And if you have any other ideas on how to get players to come over the top a little bit more, some people put them up against a fence, which gives them immediate feedback but also kind of hurts their arm. Go ahead and post them here. I'd like to see what you have to say. Alright, so that's about it for today. Stay tuned, and I'm probably going to try to do more of these video posts for you on the blog. So come back and check it out later.